So who taught Jesus? I'm going to play you a little bit of a clip here from the series The Chosen, which I do not recommend. I have to emphasize that. I think it's just riddled with errors. But anyway, that's that apart. I'm just going to read you this or play you this small clip from The Chosen because I just want to discuss one small point that may interest people.
And now for the reading and interpretation, we have with us Jesus Bar Joseph. He was one of my students in Torah class, and we've heard reports, some of them very positive, of his rabbinic journey. Jesus.
Thank you, Rabbi Benjamin.
So who taught Jesus? There is this kind of modernist push to reduce Christ to a mere prophet, that he was just enlightened and that he slowly started to realize who he was, okay? And at the age of 30, it finally dawned on him and he goes out, right? But that he followed just a normal life and he went to Torah classes and, did what all the boys did, was the same as everybody else. Kind of this push to reduce Christ's divinity. We see it trying to reduce, to downplay his miracles. No, they weren't really miracles. There was miraculous, but they weren't really miracles. They didn't really see the risen Lord. It was just a spiritual experience, They didn't really multiply the bread. Christ was just a prophet. He was the same as ever. I mean, this is the modernism on steroids that we see in the church. In the poem of the Man God, Christ does answer this question. At the beginning, the question is asked, well, who's going to teach him? And Mary says, I will teach him. And so he was taught by his blessed mother. Taught to read, not that Christ needed to be taught, but he was submissive to his parents. And we see that there's different passages where his cousins, his brothers, James and Jude, were also taught with Jesus. There's accounts of them remembering Mary telling them, or teaching them, etc., etc. And Christ would have grown up and played with his cousins and done those simple things because he was true man as well as being true God. But he wasn't taught by any rabbi. Otherwise, we would have had this in the doctors of the church. The early church would have mentioned this great rabbi, this great teacher that had taught the Messiah. There isn't one. There exists no rabbi, no teacher greater than Christ. There is no mention. Now, The Chosen has gone off in its tangent. It's a kind of, and I've heard there's Mormons on this project and obviously Protestants, and please, it's fantasy fiction at its maximum. And again, I do not recommend The Chosen whatsoever, at all. Seriously, I'm because their biblical scholarship is severely lacking. I mean, there's scenes there in The Chosen of one of the apostles going around with a little notebook taking notes, because we Protestants believe in the Bible, and the Bible was written by Christ according to them, or during Christ's time. Christ is present when it's being completed. I mean, you've all this nonsense that has popped out. But anyway, in the poem of the Man God, Christ himself is also asked, how did you prepare? Who did you go to prepare with, or who taught you? And there is no rabbi. There is no one greater. God the Father in heaven sent his word to save us, to teach us. And that's why, if you're going to choose between The Chosen and an alleged, maybe fictional, writing on the life of Christ, and again, I promote Maria Valtorta within the framework of the church. The Maria Valtorta Foundation, for example, where I will be going to give a talk in October, is fully approved by the church. Pope Francis sent a letter encouraging the promotion of the literary works of Maria Valtorta. So without being able to say they are of supernatural origin, because we're not allowed to say that because the church has ruled otherwise, it does encourage us to study and investigate, and who knows in the future if the church wants to give another decision on Niki Lobstadt, and that will remain to be seen. But there's great intuition in her works, and that's not just me saying that. That's the Archbishop of Lucca saying this. There is great intuition, which you could say is of supernatural origin. Blessed Gabriel Allegre, one of the greatest biblical scholars who translated the Bible into Chinese, also mentions this. Saint Teresa of Calcutta read this work, and many others. Again, it's a fascinating insight into the world of Christ, and I encourage people to study it. Because don't be nourished by Hollywood-style Christianity that takes liberties reinventing Christ. Christ wasn't a disciple of any rabbi or taught by any rabbi. He was taught by his parents and by his father. And that's the other. And this is fully part of the apostolic faith. If you think about it, none of the early church fathers mentions Christ's teacher, mentor. Otherwise you would have Christians maybe venerating this man over Christ. Could be, I don't know. But anyway, it simply doesn't exist. Anyway, so I just thought that was interesting, and so I'm just kind of promoting this. I'll dig out the references in Maria Valtorta, but you can see at the start, the topic of Christ's education comes up, and Mary says, "No, I will teach him." So you have this kind of school of Mary, and later on, he's asked, when he was preparing, who taught, nobody could teach the word of God. Something greater. Christ was true God, true man, the God incarnate, who came to give us the good news, the gospel, to redeem us, and that is simply it. That is it. The fullness of the truth in biblical history. So God bless you. Take care. Bye bye.